Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Tim Maggs. I'm here with Alan Gadsden tonight. And tonight we're going to have some interesting conversation on our Concerned Parents of Young Athletes program. It's a program desperately needed in a population of young athletes that are vibrant and they've got so much life to them and so much potential. And we want to make sure that they realize and can recognize that potential without the pitfalls of injuries and all of the other things that come with youth sports today. So, Alan, thank you for joining me. You are an expert on this as both a coach and a parent. So you see it from multiple perspectives.
Absolutely. A coach, parent, sports performance trainer. I see it uh, every day, uh, even before my son was born. But then you see it a lot more when you're the parent and you're emotionally attached and invested in uh, your child's career, if you will. You watch them grow and play, uh, and you are around other kids. And so that when you're a parent, that amplifies even more of our discussion because I see so many other children going through those
Yeah. Well,
injuries and
and
that.
again, I see you and your son Charles every week. I have just a tremendous fondness for that age group. I have four sons of my own, and I know all parents feel that way towards their kids. They just don't realize there's a better way of taking care of their kids. That's what this whole podcast is going to be about, and hopefully get them get them engaged at a higher level to protect their kids. So, news this week. What is the news this week? We have sports exams, and with school starting in a month or sooner, sports exams are very important. I know the stress in my house when you have to have it by a certain date, you got to get in to see the doctor and that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I have very strong opinions on the sports exams out there, and I want to talk to you about it and talk to the audience about it. This article came out a couple weeks ago in the Gazette. Injury prevention begins with youth sports. So the theme of youth sports is that there's such an energy in youth sports, and there's such a momentum there that inherently the envelope is pushed. I'm going to say too far in many cases with the training, with the competition, with the travel, with the costs. It's grown to a behemoth level, and I don't think that the care of the young athletes has grown equally. And I'm seeing it in my office, and you must see it as well. A lot of the injuries that are occurring from the overuse, and we've got some strong opinions on that tonight that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So, what
Before
it,
we move on, I have a great question for you uh, because I know the age has shifted, and I think this would be good for parents to uh, key in on. There's always levels to youth play, if you will, and some parents will say, well, they're talking about youth sports and youth injury. I don't have to be concerned about my kid with this until they turn 13 or 14. What is, in your opinion, uh, the beginning age for youth sports? When should parents really start looking at this?
it's a great question because I have in my PowerPoint presentation that when I teach chiropractors, I have a picture of probably a 3-year-old standing um, with an egg timer over his head with the sand coming through. And I say from the moment that child stands, because the human body is asymmetrical, from the moment that child stands, abnormal loading is going on through different parts of that body. We start at the age of 7 because we start with orthotics. The foot is developed by the age of 7. From 7 to 11, we start with orthotics and we take one x-ray to look at the difference in hip height. From 12 on, we do our full biomechanical exam or our structural fingerprint exam because that structure is it's being worked from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Once that kid starts running, and you know they have a T-ball now, they have kids out there so young, but no one is looking at the architecture, and that's where the negative loading is starting. But
Right.
sometimes it doesn't present itself until a Tyrese Halliburton or a Jason
Hmm.
Tatum or an Aaron Rodgers. but
Mhm.
it starts way back here.
That's great. I think people should know uh, to
Yeah,
to.
that's a great question. The real issue is going to be how do you create a system where all the kids can be evaluated? And that
Mhm.
really is a big part of my mission to create this network of doctors who will do the basic tests and make the basic recommendations. And again, with so much money, I just mentioned to you, private equity firms are investing billions now in youth sports. We're hoping that when they hear that there is a program, a biomechanics program, to help prevent injuries, that we're going to get some support to get this out there nationally. That's one of
Mhm.
the goals of this whole thing. So a lot of work ahead of us. That's why I said keep your Tuesday nights clear, Alan.
That's right.
So here is a typical exam form, and this happens to be from Scotia Glenville. And we work with so many families at Scotia Glenville. It's not that they are uniquely picked upon.
Mhm.
This is a standard exam form out there. And if you look kind of to the right, and you'll see epilepsy, nervous system, speech, nutrition, in that left column, eyes, ears, lymph nodes, they go over everything. And think about every kid in school has to go through this exam. Well, the column on the right, down to the bottom, you have orthopedic, feet, posture, structural, and scoliosis. Now, I say, because I've seen too many of these kids after they've gone through that exam, the word scoliosis is a key word used by the examiner. And I say that they're not really doing the appropriate test for scoliosis, but they use the word. And I think they use it because I think they want to give the impression that we know what we're talking about and we're looking to see if you have scoliosis. And I've been involved in sports medicine for 47 years. Scoliosis is probably not even on my top 10 list when I'm looking at a young athlete. Scoliosis is a finding that, okay, you have scoliosis, but now let's look at you biomechanically. So
Mhm.
it's entirely missing the boat of what this athlete needs. Okay, that's
Mhm.
number one. Now, number two, we had a mother come in and she was kind of upset because the examiner told her that she thinks her 13-year-old has a little scoliosis. Please take an x-ray. And I said to her, listen, I've seen this play before. I don't want to take the x-ray because I don't believe that it's true, based on the findings that I had. And
Mhm.
so she encouraged me. I took it. There's the spine that this examiner thought was scoliosis. Now, not only that the examiner is wrong, but they don't know anything past this. And
Mhm.
there's so much information in that young body past this, and that's what we want. And you asked the question, what age? Well, the very first test that we're going to do from 7 to 11 is the x-ray of the hips, because I call that the most important measurement of the body. It's the foundation.
Sure.
And then at 12, we do the more involved examination, because every young athlete, every human is an architectural structure that is imbalanced, uniquely imbalanced. Our exams have to identify that to make the corrections that we can make before the child gets out onto the field. So that's the goal of this whole thing. So the costs of ignoring it, and again, Alan, I know you've seen this, you've listened to me so much, and I appreciate, I should pay you as my therapist. But this is every human starting at the age of 7, we start to examine that. So there's collapse of the feet, that medial rotation of the knee, the unlevel hips, and all the way up. And that's what the exam has to be, because you're going to have repetitive loading of many joints, tendons, and muscles, and they only have a tolerance to a certain level. And that's why they end up with plantar fasciitis or knee injuries or hip injuries or back injuries. And then we're going to the doctors that don't really understand this, and they're suggesting physical therapy, or they're suggesting take 2 weeks off. And those are not treatment plans that are going to fix the problem. So, and I know you've gone through that, Alan, as a father, you've gone through that with Charles. And again, so you've tasted it from the father and from the coach's perspective. And I know that you've had your share of frustrations as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we saw this is before we met you that I noticed uh, when Charles was younger. Maybe I would say around maybe 11 or 12, or between 11 and 13, we would, be in the gym or outside shooting free throws, and I would notice his knees at the free throw line collapsing in, and uh, they didn't think nothing of it at the time because it's like, oh, maybe he's growing and that's how the body is moving. I knew there was something off, um, and you know, but again, having I met you or talked to the right people at the time, um, what do you do as a parent? You try to you say the typical things. Try to stand up straight, shoulders back, and again, sports performance trainer, I'm doing all the other things with stability bands and foam rolling certain areas to just get maybe some releases in different parts of his quads and hamstrings to help those areas out. But when it comes down to it, to the hip part of my thinking wasn't even there. Um, and again, here I am certified in all these other things as a fitness trainer. Um, I didn't cross my mind um, as a parent to look a little deeper into, the
Yeah.
structure. The structure usually from us as trainers, and we learn this too. Looking at the structure, we're looking on the outside. Um, we don't have the training or the ability to look on the inside uh,
Right.
like you. So, yeah, so learning a lot through this process has been great.
Yeah, and that's why, as I said, 30 years ago, I started the process of the development of this exam, not understanding that it didn't exist out there, and
Mm,
and that here we are 30 years later, still the only biomechanical exam for this population, which is just staggering to think. But
mm,
so here we see this is a young track runner that came into me in 2006. And the reason I still use this picture is it demonstrates it so well. You can see the collapse of his left foot, the medial rotation of his left knee. You can see that the left quadricep is disengaged. You can see his shorts are tilted. And our exams for young athletes do not look at this at all. So
right.
that's the crime of this whole thing. Whereas you have to look at the biomechanics from the feet all the way up to really have an understanding. So we 30 years ago started the development of the structural fingerprint exam. When I worked with the New York Giants, I recognized they wait for the athlete to become injured and they send them down the hall to the respective treatment. And I said, wait a second, there are tests and x-rays and information you can get. So that was really the start of this whole thing. And from that day forward, I've never stopped advancing this whole thing. So here's our young boy with quote unquote scoliosis. And barefoot, we took this x ray. One hip was 4.6 millimeters higher than the other. Now that looks relatively level, but it's kind of a false measurement because there's two contributing factors to the height of your hips. One is the collapse of your feet, and two is the length of your legs. We take that first x-ray while they're barefoot just to see where they're at, and then to explain to the parent the importance of orthotics. And then we retake the x-ray because the orthotic will do one of three things. It will make it better, it'll make it worse, or it'll stay the same.
Mhm,
3 millimeters and below is normal. You want those hips as level as possible. So we use a lift on the orthotic to be able to get those hips level. Now, the side view measurement measures the center of gravity. That long red line is the center of gravity. You can see his center of gravity is ahead of the short red line, which is where it should be. That predisposes this young boy to abnormal forces going through the back of the spine, which in young athletes, that is where a condition known as spondylolisthesis occurs. It's a big word, but it's a stress reaction or a stress fracture. And I just told you the past 2 weeks, we have two young athletes with that condition, and they're out for 3 months because that's the treatment of that condition. So when we see someone without that condition that has an anterior or forward center of gravity line, we can start the necessary treatments and exercises to work to reduce that so the loading is more balanced and more appropriately balanced. And that's the message that we're trying to get out there. So the feet first system, so you asked what age. This is the system that we use from 7 to 11, which says we know that we've done the research. Everybody has collapse of the feet. 7 years old is when that foot is formed and you can start. So orthotics to start, and we also shown it's over the counter. We don't want to spend money on custom orthotics. It's flawed. That whole concept is flawed. You want symmetry of the feet, good quality over the counter, but then that one x-ray to look at the hips. And if needed, then we want to have a lift put on. So for those patients that come into our office, we have that high quality over the counter orthotic at a dramatically reduced cost. So that's number one. And we have the full orthotic, we have the cleat orthotic, because these kids, so many of these kids are playing dual sports. And now we took the x-ray with orthotics on, and it's virtually the same, 4.5 millimeters high on the left. So we put a 3 millimeter lift under the right orthotic to get those hips as level as can be. All right. So that's kind of how we start with this, with that young boy who came in because he thought he had scoliosis. So we learned so much more, and we were able to do so much more and identify that he had no scoliosis. So there's the lift that we put on. And here is the pre and post of that other young boy. Now, this was unusual, Alan, because that was just with orthotics, and that was years before I took the hip x-rays. But we can only conclude that, or assume that his hips would be more level in the second one, the after, compared to
Mm-hmm.
before. All right. And I use those pictures today because it's the most demonstrative pre and post that I've ever seen. And it tells the story. The after is what we're going for every athlete. Okay.
Yep.
Now I have this one, and I just came upon this yesterday, Alan. I know you'd appreciate it. We have three x-rays here. To the far left, 13 years old, with orthotics, 6.3 millimeters off. 2 years later, the young man at 15 years old, 7.7 millimeters off. 2 years later, at 17 years old, 10.3 millimeters off. And these are all with new orthotics each time.
Wow.
Now, what does that show? And I have hundreds of those x-rays. Their legs don't grow evenly. So not only are we not doing the one time to see where they're at, we need to every year to 2 years be taking that one x-ray and then finding out what the difference is and using the appropriate lift to keep them as level as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the
Yep.
most advanced stuff out there, because no one has ever suggested that we need to look at their hip height, let alone every year during every growth spurt, because it's going to change.
Right.
So
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah, but I know seeing that, I knew that that would
Yeah.
impress you. But I look,
Yeah.
see, I look
Very
at
much.
this every day, and I don't have the time to stop after every case and take it to the public and show them. And so I see it every day, and I know that we just are not doing what has to be done out there for this age group. So much more can be done, and so I truthfully, I thank you immensely for joining me in this mission to try to get this message out there that these kids need this evaluation. They have to get the other because they can't play unless they get the other. But
Right.
that's kind
Right.
of a corporate exam, a
Right.
formality, but this is the one that they need.
Right. Well, and in closing, it's the families are going to get their children ready with the physicals and things of that nature. But that's all going to be external stuff that they see. It's going to be
Right.
height, the weight, the all the things. Um, but we have to look internally at the body and get it and get. I'm not saying that you're looking at the feet too, not looking on the outside, but you have to look in the inside as well. Um,
Yeah.
so you have a
Well,
balanced
well, you know
balanced.
what it is? It's the technology today is so advanced. And when we talk x-rays, I have to say the x-ray today is such reduced exposure to radiation, the digital x-ray, it's such reduced exposure. And just to give people a perspective, so many people every day they recommend a CAT scan. everybody is out there getting CAT scans like they're nothing. A CAT scan is equivalent to 50 low back X-rays.
Mm.
So they're
Wow.
very comfortable at recommending CAT scans for people, but
Right.
when with the 2 or 3 or 4 X-rays that I'm recommending during the teen years for an athlete has no consequences relative to the information that we get.
Right.
So
Right.
that's an important message to get out
Yeah,
there.
that is a very important message.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, as always, Alan, I thank you for being a part of
Yes.
this, and I think you and I got a
Yeah.
lot of work ahead of us,
Yep.
and we're going to use as a poster child your son, who is not only a tremendous athlete but a tremendous person, and we're going to get to witness him
Thank you.
in his senior year of basketball, which is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So I appreciate the call. This is good stuff. This is worth the time to spread the word. It's worth the time. I mean,
Yeah,
it's every young athlete wants to play an entire season. They want to play in the spring and summer. The parents want to watch their kids play, but you can't watch them play if they're on the sideline. So we have some work to do.
got to keep him out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, keep them out there. All right, Alan, thank you very much. We'll look forward to next time.
All
Until then,
right. Sounds good.
everyone, thank you for joining us, and we will be back. You can be sure of
Yes, we
that.
will.
Thank
All
you.
right. Talk to you soon.
Okay.